Jade pressed her back against the cool hallway wall, her breath coming in ragged bursts. For years of memories, laughter, and shared dreams pulsed behind her ribcage like a relentless drumbeat. She and Marcus had become shorthand for a perfect couple among their friends. So she had believed, until tonight. The argument had started over a single notification on his phone, a cryptic message that glowed on the dark screen like a neon riddle. "I deserve to know who you're texting at 2 in the morning," Jade had said, voice trembling. Loneliness dripped from her words. Marcus looked at her, eyes flickering with annoyance rather than concern. He'd shut his laptop, leaned back in his chair, and sighed in that infuriating way that always made her doubt herself. "It's nothing, Jade," he said. "Just work." But work didn't send heart-eye emojis at 2:17 a.m. Work didn't reply with a single-word response that sounded too tender for a colleague. Work didn't make her stomach twist into knots. "So you won't show me?" she challenged, crossing her arms. The room felt smaller. The walls seemed to close in. She searched his face for an explanation, some flicker of guilt or apology. There was nothing but impatience. "I'm tired," he snapped. "Can we not do this tonight?" His tone was sharp, brittle. In that instant, everything changed. The understanding they'd cultivated over years shattered like glass. Jade's chest tightened. "I'm done," she replied, voice low but resolute. She couldn't remember arranging the words. They'd emerged fully formed, brutal and final. She dropped her phone onto the coffee table and turned away. No funeral for their relationship, no last chance. Just the sound of her heels on hardwood, echoing through the apartment as she walked out into the night, leaving him, and the unanswered text behind. Jade drove aimlessly down rain-slicked streets for what felt like hours, the wipers scraping out a steady, lonely rhythm. Marcus's empty apartment felt like a wound she'd opened and then fled before it could bleed out. At home, hers felt equally alien. The silence loomed, oppressive as a storm cloud. No calls, no texts, no excuses, just a void where promises used to live. She found herself reaching for her phone so often that her thumb ached. Each glance at the blank lock screen felt like rubbing salt in a festering cut. 3 days had passed, and still nothing. Her mind conjured every possible scenario. Maybe he was on a business trip with no signal. Maybe his battery died. Maybe he was planning some grand romantic gesture. But none of those felt real. Instead, she felt hollow. Mornings were the worst. Waking up alone felt unfamiliar, like a joke she didn't get. She'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment. The way he'd frowned when she pressed too hard. The last sentence she'd spoken. The final slam of the door. By night, her chest ached so fiercely she could almost taste the pain. She wrapped herself in blankets and stared at old photos on her phone. Vacation selfies, pizza and movie nights, lazy Sunday mornings. Each one was a haiku of intimacy that now felt like a lie. Friends called, invited her out, but she declined. She wasn't ready for small talk or pity cupcakes. She wanted answers she knew she wouldn't get. So she stayed silent, wrapped in her own stubborn sorrow. Night after night, Jade replayed the breakup in her mind like an unending reel. One flicker of doubt led to another, until she wondered if she'd been the villain in her own story. Had she overreacted? Would listening instead of storming out have changed everything? The questions burned through her thoughts, relentless. She walked past a cafe where they'd shared lattes on lazy Saturday mornings. Each step felt heavy, weighted by regret. She remembered the way Marcus used to cradle her hand, as if it was something fragile he'd found on the sidewalk. He'd never been good with confrontation. She'd known that, but she hadn't given him a chance. At the grocery store, she paused by the produce section where they'd argued about avocados last month. He swore she sliced them too thick. She joked he was ruining brunch. Suddenly, the trivial spat felt monumental. Maybe he was juggling work stress and personal insecurities. Maybe he was terrified of letting her see his vulnerabilities. Guilt settled like a stone in her stomach. She scolded herself for letting pride write the final chapter. She missed the comfort of his shoulder, the sound of his laugh echoing in her apartment. The ache was familiar, like missing a part of herself. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, drafting apology letters in her mind. I'm sorry for leaving without listening. I miss you. The words tasted bittersweet on her tongue. She realized that sometimes love meant swallowing fear and leaning into the hard conversations. Tasha showed up at Jade's door unannounced, raincoat drenched, eyes serious. They'd been friends since middle school, sharing secrets and sleepovers. Tonight, Jade needed that fearless honesty more than ever. You look like hell, Tasha said, dropping onto the sofa. She tossed her keys onto the coffee table, and the clink echoed in the quiet apartment. Jade shrugged, rubbing her temples. Thanks, Captain Obvious, Jade muttered. I'm a mess. Tasha leaned forward, intensity softening her features. Listen, he's a grown man. If he wanted to fix things, he would have called by now. Her words were like darts, painful but precise. Jade's chest tightened. But people take time, Jade argued. He doesn't handle conflict well. Or, Tasha sat up straight. He's okay with walking away. Jade's eyes snapped to her friend. The truth struck harder than any argument. Tasha continued, voice gentle but firm. You deserve someone who fights for you, who sits you down and says, I'm sorry. Not this radio silence bullshit. Jade closed her eyes. Tasha was right. She'd been clinging to old memories instead of demanding respect. But the worst part was knowing she still missed him desperately. Tasha reached over and squeezed her hand. Whatever you decide, I've got your back. But don't hide from your own life, waiting for someone who might never show. That night, Jade sat at her small desk, laptop open but unused. The cursor blinked on the draft message. Marcus, I'm sorry for how I walked away. I love you and hurt you. Can we talk? She stared at it, heart pounding. Her thumb hovered over send. Doubt gnawed at her. What if he was already engaged to someone else? What if he ignored her completely? She deleted the text, then retyped it, stronger. I miss you. I know I should have listened. Can we meet face to face tomorrow? Her finger trembled as it hovered above send. She deleted it again. The room felt too small, too quiet. She backed away from the laptop, pacing. This decision felt monumental, like stepping off a cliff. Finally, adrenaline surged. She slammed her hand onto the trackpad. Send. The phone buzzed within seconds, though whether confirmation or mockery, Jade couldn't tell. She packed a small bag. Change of clothes, toothbrush, her favorite journal. Tomorrow, she would show up at his door. No texts. No screens between them. Just two people trying to salvage the pieces. As she drifted off to sleep, her mind replayed every word she intended to say, every apology she needed to offer. For the first time in days, she felt a flicker of hope. The impulse was reckless, but it was real. And tomorrow, she would face whatever waited behind his door. Jade squared her shoulders as she stepped out of her apartment building, the morning haze still clinging to the pavement. Her heart thudded, equal parts fear and determination. She clutched the small black bag slung over her shoulder, just a change of clothes and the journal she'd taken to writing in when sleep eluded her. Today she would face Marcus. No screens, no texts, just her voice and her truth. As she walked down the quiet street toward his house, her steps faltered when she spotted the white SUV parked outside. It was the same model, a sleek, mid-sized Land Rover with tinted windows, Luna's car. Jade's stomach convulsed. Luna had rented it for a weekend getaway last month. What was it doing here now? Panic flickered, but she dismissed it with a shake of her head. Maybe Luna was visiting a friend. Maybe her sister had business nearby. Jade reminded herself to focus. Marcus, not Luna. She swallowed and walked up the front path. Her hand trembled as she reached for the door handle. The metal was cold under her palm. She paused, breathing in the faint scent of wet grass and early blooming flowers. Then she lifted her hand and tapped the door with surprising firmness. No response. She frowned. Maybe Marcus hadn't heard. She tapped again, louder. And then laughter. A low, warm laugh that made her heart seize. Jade's breath caught. She peered through the narrow gap between door and frame. Inside, she glimpsed a flash of white, no ivory. A dress. And then there it was, Marcus, kneeling on one knee, holding out a small velvet box. His eyes shone with emotion as he looked up at Luna, whose face was radiant, tears glistening. "Will you marry me?" he asked. Jade pressed her forehead against the cool wood, her vision narrowing to that single moment. The words echoed in her mind. "Will you marry me?" Luna's reply, soft but ecstatic. "Yes." The click of the ring, sliding onto her finger, rang like a death knell. Jade's chest felt hollow. She stumbled back the way she came, breath coming in ragged gasps. Her knees buckled, and she sank onto the bottom step. The black bag fell beside her, unnoticed. She clutched at her blouse, feeling as though the fabric would tear under the weight of her grief. Her mind refused to believe what she'd seen. This had to be a mistake. He couldn't propose to Luna. Not Luna, her baby sister, the one she'd always protected. The world around her blurred. The white SUV, the green lawn, the bright morning sky, all of it dissolved into a painful montage. She stood, swaying, and forced herself to walk the few feet to the curb. Then she did something she couldn't explain. She sat down, folding her legs beneath her like a child seeking refuge. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it, eyes fixed on the pristine SUV. Tears blurred her vision. She remembered Luna's voice, gentle but firm, earlier this year, when she tried on Jade's sweater. "I love your style, sis." Jade had laughed, ruffled her sister's hair. Had she been wearing that sweater that night? Had Luna been planning this all along? The phone buzzed again. Jade finally pulled it out. It was Tasha. "How did it go?" Jade's thumb hovered over read. She swallowed and typed back with trembling fingers. "You were right. It's her." Then she ended the call without sending. She remained on the curb until her legs felt numb and her vision cleared. Then she rose, dusted off her skirt, and picked up the journal. She opened it to a fresh page and wrote, "They were waiting. Both of them." And I walked right into it. She closed the journal, slid it into her bag, and turned away. She would go home now. She would breathe. She would decide what to do next. But first, she would let the world keep turning, even if her own had stopped. The day before, the world had been muted. Grays and blues filtered through a haze of confusion. But now, as Jade swung her car door shut and locked the door with a click, reality sharpened to painful clarity. Luna's white SUV loomed beside her, a symbol of betrayal. A single tear escaped as she slid into the driver's seat and pressed the key fob. The engine roared to life, echoing through her chest. She drove in silence, headlights slicing through early evening traffic. The GPS on her dashboard blinked home. 2 miles. But her mind raced elsewhere. She replayed the scene. Marcus on one knee, Luna's joyful tears. Her sister's face had been alight with a love Jade had thought was hers alone to share. Traffic lights turned green and then red, but she barely noticed. She steered onto the winding road past the neighborhood park, where she and Marcus used to walk his dog, past the little bakery, where he'd buy croissants on Sunday mornings. Each landmark stabbed at her heart. An hour later, Jade reached her street. She parked in front of her building, leaving the engine running. Her reflection wavered in the rearview mirror, a pale ghost with haunted eyes. She brushed a strand of hair from her face and closed her eyes. She owed herself a moment of peace. She stepped out, slamming the door so hard the car jolted. The engine died, leaving an oppressive silence. Jade straightened, chest heaving, and glanced up at her apartment windows. 6th floor, apartment 612. She'd never felt more alone. Inside, the hallway light flickered. She fumbled with her keys, and once inside, she locked the door behind her. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. She dropped her bag by the door, shrugged out of her coat, and kicked off her shoes. The weight of the day pressed down on her. She headed to the window overlooking the street. Pulling aside the curtain, she peered out. The white SUV sat empty, its headlights dark. A single street lamp cast a pool of yellow light around it. Luna's car. Luna's lie. The betrayal stood before her like a monument. Jade pressed her forehead against the cool glass. She closed her eyes, inhaled, and let the anger rise. She thought of Luna's voice on the phone, the excitement in her greeting 2 weeks ago. "I can't wait for you to meet him." Luna had called that afternoon, claiming to want coffee and sister time. Jade had been busy, promised to join later. Now Jade wondered if Luna had just been buying time. The city buzzed beyond the window, cars honking, distant music, footsteps on the sidewalk. Life moved on. People fell in love, got engaged, had children. People also betrayed, lied, abandoned. Jade's vision blurred with tears. She moved away from the window, pacing the small living room. Her gaze fell on the framed photo on her mantel, her and Marcus, laughing at the beach. She picked it up, traced the glass with a fingertip. The image looked like a lie now, a staged moment of happiness. She set the frame face down on the couch. Jade sank onto the edge of the sofa and pulled out her phone. She opened Tasha's message. "I'm here whenever you need me." She closed the app and dialed her friend. The line rang twice before Tasha's voice answered, calm and welcoming. "Hey," Jade whispered, voice trembling. "I need you." Tasha's response was immediate. "I know. Tell me everything." Jade took a shaky breath, clutching the armrest. "It's worse than I thought," she said. "It's Luna." And as the words left her lips, the full weight of the betrayal settled in her bones. The next afternoon, Jade woke to a flurry of unread messages. She ignored them and focused on the plan. Attend the family dinner tonight. Her mother had invited her, saying Luna would bring someone special. Jade's heart pounded at the thought, but she steeled herself. She needed to see Luna's face. She spent the day preparing. A cool navy dress, minimal makeup, her hair pulled back. She practiced her composure in the mirror, steady breathing, slight smile, neutral tone. She would make it through. As evening fell, she drove to her parents' house. The driveway was empty, the porch light flickering. She opened the front door to the scent of jasmine and her mother's humming. Her father's laughter drifted from the living room. "Jade," her mother called, stepping forward. She embraced her daughter tightly. "I'm so glad you came." Her voice trembled. Jade nodded, smiling. Her father sat in his armchair, eyebrows raised. "You look lovely," he said after a moment. His gaze flicked to the ribbon gift box on the coffee table, Luna's. Jade's stomach clenched. Just then, Luna swept in, arm in arm with Marcus. Her dress was cream silk, a delicate flower pinned to her hair. Marcus wore a crisp white shirt and dark trousers, looking more nervous than Jade had ever seen him. Luna's face lit up when she spotted Jade. "Hey, Jade," she said brightly. Her hand brushed Jade's arm. Jade felt nothing. Marcus offered a strained smile. "Hi, Jade." He cleared his throat, glanced at Luna. Their impromptu embrace felt like a cruel game. Jade forced herself to step forward. "Hi," she said. Her voice was soft but carried across the room. Luna beamed. "We have news," she announced, pulling Marcus gently by the elbow. They moved to the center of the room. Jade's mother wiped her eyes. Her father sat up straighter. The tension crackled. Luna took a breath. "Marcus and I," her eyes glistened. She looked down at the velvet box in her hand. "We're engaged." A hush fell. Jade's heart pounded so loudly she thought it might burst. Marcus opened the box, revealing the ring. It sparkled under the chandelier. Luna slipped it onto her finger with trembling hands. "Congratulations," Jade said, raising her glass. Her hands were steady, but her mind reeled. She met Luna's gaze. Her sister's eyes shone with happiness, but Jade saw a flicker of something else. Guilt, perhaps, or fear. Across the room, her father clapped, then winced, as if realizing what he'd done. Her mother wept softly. Marcus looked at Jade, his eyes pleading. In that moment, Jade understood more than betrayal. She saw the fragility of love, how quickly it can shift, how easily it can break a family. She lifted her glass higher. "To your happiness," she said, voice clear. She swallowed the wine in one sip and set the glass down. Her mouth felt dry. Luna's joyous laughter echoed in her ears. Jade stepped back, distancing herself. She needed air, space, distance. She headed toward the back door. Marcus reached for her arm. "Please," he whispered. But Jade slipped away, leaving him and Luna to their celebration. Outside, the cool night air hit her face. She inhaled deeply, tasting freedom and heartbreak all at once. Jade's footsteps echoed against the flagstones as she strode down the garden path, behind her parents' house. The night air was crisp, scented with jasmine and damp earth. Her vision blurred with tears, one for every promise broken, every lie uncovered. She reached the wrought iron gate and pushed it open, stepping onto the quiet street. Lampposts cast pools of yellow light across the pavement. She walked without direction, each step heavier than the last. Thoughts tumbled through her mind. Luna's radiant smile, Marcus's pleading eyes, her father's confused expression. The image of that ring slicing through her heart. She tried to push it away, but it echoed in her chest. Tasha's earlier words rang in her ears. He's okay with walking away. Had he? Or had he simply walked toward someone else? Luna. Luna was the answer to his loneliness, the refuge he'd sought when Jade had stormed out. She turned a corner and nearly collided with a bicyclist. The bell rang sharply. Jade stumbled back, heart racing. She gazed at the passing figure, anonymous, unseeing. It struck her how small and lost she felt. She pressed a hand to her forehead, dizziness washing over her. Her legs weakened. She sank onto the curb, pulling her knees to her chest. She rocked slightly, as if emotion could cradle her broken pieces. On the sidewalk behind her, a car door closed. She looked up to see Luna's SUV pulling into the driveway across the street. The headlights swept over her, illuminating her face, wet with tears. Luna's silhouette appeared behind the windshield. Their eyes met for a heartbeat. Jade averted her gaze and stood. She crossed the street without looking, each footfall deliberate. Back on familiar pavement, she headed toward her car parked several blocks away. Her vision blurred again, but she refused to lean on someone else tonight. She would make it back. When she reached her car, she fumbled with her keys, hands shaking. The door unlocked with a chime. She slid inside and collapsed against the steering wheel, sobs racking her body. The engine idled, lights dim, as she let the grief pour out. She remembered the last time she cried in a car, her first breakup in college, when nothing felt permanent. This felt infinitely worse. This was permanent. Minutes passed. Her tears slowed, leaving her exhausted. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, blinked, and forced herself to start the engine. The headlights cut through the dark as she pulled onto the road. The drive home was a blur. The city lights streaked past like wounded fireflies. Memory after memory crashed through her. Marcus's laugh, Luna's laughter, her own echoing through an empty apartment. When she finally unlocked her front door, she barely registered it. Inside, she kicked off her heels and lurched to the couch. She curled up under a blanket and stared at the ceiling. The silence was suffocating. She closed her eyes, willing sleep to come. But her mind raced. Betrayal, heartbreak, disillusionment. Each feeling churned like storm clouds overhead. She exhaled, a shuddering breath. Tomorrow, she would decide what to do. But tonight, she allowed herself this collapse, this raw, unfiltered grief. Because even the strongest hearts needed time to mend. Jade awoke to pale sunlight filtering through the curtains. Her throat ached from crying. Her body ached from crying too much. She stared at the ceiling, replaying last night's escape. She'd left behind a family dinner, a shattered engagement, and a sister she no longer recognized. She sat up, swung her legs over the side of the bed, and rubbed her temples. The apartment was silent, a stark contrast to the chaos in her mind. She needed clarity. She needed answers. She grabbed her phone and dialed Tasha. The phone rang once, twice, then clicked. "Hey," Tasha said, voice gentle. "Morning," Jade croaked. "Can you come over?" "Of course. 10 minutes." Jade nodded, even though Tasha couldn't see her. "Thanks." 10 minutes later, Tasha burst through the door, carrying coffee and croissants. She set the tray on Jade's coffee table and took a seat. Jade poured coffee into 2 mugs. The rich aroma settled her nerves slightly. "Tell me what happened," Tasha said, hands folded. Jade took a steadying sip. "He proposed to Luna." Tasha's eyes widened. "What?" Jade nodded. "At his house. I walked in. I saw them through the window." Tasha exhaled sharply. "Oh, Jade." Jade's eyes filled again. "I don't get it. She's my sister. He was mine." Tasha reached out and squeezed her hand. "You have every right to feel betrayed." Jade closed her eyes. It wasn't just him. It was her. My own sister. Tasha's gaze was firm. People change when things fall apart. But this is deep. Jade took a deep breath. I want to confront her. Tasha nodded slowly. Okay, but be careful. It might get messy. Jade's jaw tightened. I need the truth. Tasha leaned back. Then let's find it. She pulled out her phone. First, we mapped the timeline. When did you break up? When did you see them together? Jade cradled her mug, sipped. I broke up with him 5 days ago. I sent my apology text yesterday. This morning, I got the invite that Luna's bringing someone special. Tasha tapped notes into her phone. So they planned this while you were in silence. Jade's lip quivered. She didn't warn me. She let me stay in the dark. Tasha's expression hardened. That's betrayal. Jade's gaze dropped to her mug. I still love her. She's my sister. Tasha's eyes softened. That makes it hurt even more. Jade looked up. I want to know why. Tasha nodded. Then we talked to her. Face to face. Jade exhaled. I'm terrified. Tasha shrugged. Good. That means you still care. Jade managed a small smile. When do we start? Tasha set down her phone. Now. Let's plan. They bent over the coffee table, plotting. A sister's betrayal cut deepest when love was involved. But Jade was done hiding. She would face Luna, whatever the cost. Because some truths demanded reckoning, even if they broke your heart in the process. Jade sat on her couch, phone in hand, scrolling through photos of her and Marcus, images now tainted by betrayal. She noticed details she glossed over before. Luna's frequent visits to Marcus's apartment, casual enough that she never questioned them. A selfie on Luna's feed showed her wearing Jade's favorite sweater, and Marcus standing behind her, arm draped possessively across her shoulders. Jade's chest tightened. Memory and suspicion collided. She texted Tasha, asking for the date stamp on that photo. It read 2 weeks before the breakup. 2 weeks. Marcus had been meeting Luna behind her back, while he and Jade were still perfect. Tears blurred her vision. Rage and grief warred within her. She grabbed her keys and drove to Luna's apartment, heart pounding. Luna answered the door, surprised to see her sister so soon. Her smile faltered when she met Jade's gaze, eyes clouded with accusation. Jade stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. The apartment was neat, sunlit, but felt cold. She held up her phone. Explain this, she demanded, voice trembling. The photo glowed between them like a spotlight. Luna's lips quivered. She ran a hand through her hair, glanced away. I can explain, she began, voice defensive. We were friends. He needed someone to talk to. Jade laughed bitterly. Friends don't meet at midnight in his living room. She paced, fists clenched. You never told me. Luna folded her arms. I didn't want to hurt you. Jade stopped, breath hitching. Hurting me would have been better than lying to me. The anger in her voice cracked the silence. Luna's eyes filled with tears. He came to me after you left him. I didn't steal him. Jade's heart thundered. You didn't have to steal him. You let him cheat. Luna took a shaky breath. I was there when he was broken. You ran away. Jade shook her head, tears spilling. You enabled him. You let him propose to you. Luna winced. I didn't ask for that ring. They stood in the glaring sunlight of Luna's living room, wounded sisters facing the wreckage of trust. Luna's shoulders sagged. I'm sorry, she whispered. Jade's anger faltered, replaced by aching sorrow. Sorry isn't enough, she replied softly. She turned and left, phone still in hand, leaving Luna to stare after her, regret etched on her face. Back in her apartment, Jade locked the door and collapsed against it. She slid to the floor, knees drawn to her chest, and wept until her tears ran dry. The room felt suffocating, walls closing in, the air heavy with regret. She reached for her journal, scribbled. I lost Marcus. I lost Luna. I'm drowning. For 3 days she barely emerged. She skipped meals, ignored calls, and let her world shrink to the narrow space between her bed and couch. Each morning, the sunlight felt like an accusation. People around her moved on with their lives, commuting, laughing, living, while Jade existed in suspended agony. On day 2, her phone buzzed with a notification. "Why haven't you answered?" From Marcus. She stared at it for hours before deleting the message, without reading. She felt guilt and relief in equal measure. Luna messaged next. "Can we talk?" She deleted that too. She didn't want any more explanations or apologies. She wanted silence. That night, she dreamt of Marcus on one knee, Luna's face glowing, then turning to hers, pleading, "Jade, please." She woke in a cold sweat, screaming into her pillow. Her throat burned, eyes stung, but she couldn't stop the memories. She pressed her palms against her temples, willing the images to fade. On day 3, Tasha broke through. She pounded on Jade's door and barged in with coffee, sandwiches, and determination. She sat beside Jade on the floor and handed her a sandwich. Jade stared at it but couldn't eat. Tasha refused to take no for an answer. She fed Jade one bite at a time, speaking softly about the world beyond heartbreak. By evening, Jade managed to brush her teeth and gaze at herself in the mirror, pale face, haunted eyes. She splashed water on her face, whispering, "I'm still here." The darkness had nearly consumed her, but something stirred, a fragile ember of will. She texted Marcus, "Don't contact me. I need time." Then she blocked his number. As night fell, she crawled into bed, journal beside her. She wrote, 3 days in darkness, and I'm still breathing. Tomorrow I'll seek light." Exhausted, she closed her eyes, determined to rise anew. 2 days later, Jade's phone rang. It was her mother. Her voice trembled with forced cheer. "We're having dinner tomorrow. Luna and Marcus will be there." Jade's heart clenched. She swallowed. "I'll come." She spent the next morning cleaning her apartment, cooking a simple pasta dish, and laying out a fresh dress, soft gray, nothing flashy. She practiced calm expressions in the mirror, reminding herself she was going as Jade, not as a wounded girl. That evening, she stood at her parents' door, hand poised to knock. She inhaled, exhaled, then tapped. Inside, her mother embraced her. Her father gave a stiff nod. The dining room was set with candles and fresh flowers. Luna and Marcus sat at the table's far end, their shoulders nearly touching. Their eyes flicked to Jade as she entered. Conversation started around small talk, work, neighbors, weather. The tension crackled beneath polite smiles. Luna reached across to squeeze Jade's hand, but Jade gently withdrew. Luna's face fell. Jade ignored it, focusing on the meal. The aroma of garlic and olive oil comforted her. Midway through dinner, her mother cleared her throat and raised a glass. "To family," she began, voice wavering. "We may fracture sometimes, but blood runs deeper than any break." The words rang hollow. Jade held her breath as Luna and Marcus smiled, raising their glasses. After the toast, Luna leaned in. "Jade," she said softly, "I want to say I'm sorry." Jade met her gaze, searching for truth. Luna's eyes glistened. "I never wanted to hurt you." Jade's throat tightened. "But you did." She set her fork down. The clatter sounded louder than any shout. Marcus cleared his throat, glancing between them. Jade cut him off with a raised hand. "Not now." Her voice was steady, firm enough to command the room. She wasn't asking for apologies. She was stating facts. Luna's face crumpled. Marcus's eyes filled with regret. Jade forced a small nod and stood. "Thank you for dinner." She left her plate untouched, but her heart felt lighter. Outside, the night air was cool and crisp. She closed her eyes, letting it wash over her. She'd faced her family. She'd reclaimed her voice. The next morning, Jade found a note slipped under her apartment door in Luna's elegant handwriting. "Meet me at the cafe at noon." Jade stared at it, pen in hand. She circled the time with deliberate calm. At noon, she arrived at their childhood cafe. Small tables, checkered tablecloths, the scent of fresh espresso in the air. Luna was already there, seated near the window, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. Her face was pale but determined. Jade sat across, folding her arms. Silence stretched, charged. Finally, Luna spoke. "Thank you for coming." Jade nodded. You wanted honesty. Luna's lips trembled. I owe you the truth. She exhaled, then began. When you left Marcus, he was broken. He called me, crying. I thought I was helping a friend, but I never meant for it to go this far. Jade held her gaze. Why didn't you tell me? Luna's voice cracked. I was jealous. I saw how he looked at you. In awe, like you were magic. I wanted that just once. Luna's confession spilled out. Insomnia, envy, late-night calls. Jade listened, heart aching with empathy and hurt. When Luna finished, tears glistened on her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered. Jade stared at her, torn between anger and compassion. She recalled their childhood, secrets shared under blanket forts, promises to always protect each other. She realized Luna's betrayal wasn't born of malice, but of longing. After a long pause, Jade reached across and took Luna's hand. I forgive you, she said softly. Luna's sobs shook her frame. Jade squeezed her hand. But I need distance. Luna nodded. Jade stood. I'm rebuilding my life, my trust. You understand. Luna wiped her tears. I do. They left the cafe side by side, sisters bound by blood and tears, stepping toward uncertain futures, separate paths for now, but with a shared past they could no longer ignore. That evening, Jade received an unexpected invitation, this time from Marcus. One final drink? No expectations. She hesitated but accepted. At the bar, Marcus waited in a dark corner booth, 2 glasses on the table. The dim light cast shadows across his face, highlighting the remorse in his eyes. He stood as she approached and gestured to the seat. Jade slid in, heart pounding. Marcus poured whiskey into their glasses, then raised his. To honesty, he said, voice unsteady. Jade lifted her glass warily. She sipped, the burn of the whiskey awakening something in her. Marcus stared at his glass, then met her gaze. I owe you more than apologies, he said quietly. I owe you the truth. He spoke of guilt, betrayal, love still lingering. He admitted he'd been afraid of conflict, of vulnerability. So he turned to Luna for comfort. Jade set her glass down. And now, she asked, voice calm. Marcus swallowed. I'm learning to face my fears, he replied. Without you, I realized what I lost. He reached across, but she pulled back. Not everything is about you, she reminded him. He nodded. I know. Silence enveloped them. The bartender's muted radio played a soft melody. Jade studied Marcus's face, lines of regret etched into his features. She realized she no longer saw the man she loved, but a stranger shaped by mistakes. She lifted her glass again. To new beginnings, she said. Marcus's eyebrows rose, even if it means separate paths. Jade nodded. He clinked glasses with her, the sound echoing like a closing door. They finished their drinks in silence. Marcus stood and hesitated. Take care, Jade. She managed a small smile. You too, Marcus. As she walked away, Jade felt a strange weight lift from her chest. The toast had cut deep, yet it had also severed old ties. She stepped into the night, ready to choose herself once more. Jade sat across from Tasha at their favorite coffee shop, the one with chipped teal chairs and mismatched mugs. But today the place felt like a war zone. Tasha spread her phone screen and laptop open on the table, evidence of late-night sleuthing. Look at this, she said, tapping the screen. Jade leaned forward, heart pounding. On the screen was a candid photo. Luna and Marcus, laughing over lattes, their shoulders brushing. The timestamp in the corner read June 5th, 2025, 7:42 p.m. 2 weeks before Jade's breakup text. Seconds later, Tasha pulled up a series of messages from Luna's group chat with friends, giddy about a secret meetup with someone special. Jade's hands trembled as she scrolled through. Luna had written, he listened for hours. I've never felt so chosen. How long was this going on? Jade whispered, voice raw. Tasha sighed. At least 2 weeks, maybe longer. I dug through his tagged photos, her check-ins. Even saw a story he tagged her in and deleted later. He wasn't just leaning on her. He was falling for her before you even left. Jade blinked back tears. The truth burned like acid. She remembered ignoring her instincts when Luna showed up at his door just to chat. She dismissed it as sisterly concern. Now it looked like calculated betrayal. She pressed her palms to the table, fighting nausea. "Show me everything." Tasha nodded and handed over her laptop. Together they mapped out a timeline. Late May, Marcus texts Luna about feeling alone. Early June, Luna texts friends about comforting him. June 15th, Jade storms out. June 17th, first ring brainstorm message from Marcus to Luna. Meanwhile, no apology to Jade. Jade's chest tightened. He asked her to help him move on. She said, voice hollow, "He didn't care if it hurt me." She swiped the screen closed. Enough. Tasha reached across and squeezed her hand. "You deserve to know the full story before you decide what to do next." Jade nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Tomorrow," she said, voice resolute. "I'm confronting Luna." That night, Jade lay awake replaying every detail. She reviewed Tasha's evidence, screenshots of messages, photos of secret coffee runs. Calendar invites Luna had forgotten to hide. The betrayal had a pattern. Subtle at first, then relentless. She realized Luna hadn't simply taken advantage of a broken relationship. She'd been complicit in the collapse. By dawn, Jade felt a cold clarity. She rose, pulled on her running shoes, and jogged through her neighborhood. The rhythmic pounding of her feet mirrored her determination. Each step washed away tears and doubt, leaving only purpose, to expose the lies. Back home, she drafted a message to Luna. "Meet me at 2 p.m. at our grandmother's bench in the park. I need answers." She didn't expect kindness. She expected confrontation. She pressed send. As she buttoned her coat, her phone buzzed with a single incoming text from Marcus. "We need to talk." Jade stared at the message without replying. She tucked her phone into her pocket. Today, she would face the woman who'd torn her world apart. The park was quiet at 2 p.m., sunlight filtering through the oaks, casting dancing shadows across the pathway. Jade's heart hammered as she walked to the old wooden bench where she and Luna had spent childhood afternoons feeding pigeons. The bench was weathered, paint peeling, but memories lingered, both sweet and bitter. Luna arrived, her footsteps hesitant on the gravel. She wore a pale blue dress and carried a small purse. Her eyes widened when she saw Jade's stiff posture, arms crossed. "Jade," she began, voice trembling. "Save it," Jade said, her tone cold. "I saw the messages. The photos. You and Marcus." Luna's shoulders slumped. She glanced at the bench, then back at Jade. "I can explain." "Explain." Jade's voice rose, echoing off the trees. "You met him behind my back. While I thought you were my sister, you let him propose to you." Her words stung with betrayal. Luna's lips quivered. "I swear, I never wanted to hurt you." Luna whispered. "He came to me broken. He needed someone. I was there." Jade laughed harshly. "You were there because you chose to be. You didn't warn me. You used my silence." Luna's eyes brimmed with tears. She dropped her purse and sank onto the bench, hands covering her face. "I was scared," she admitted, voice muffled. "I loved you, Jade, but I wanted to be loved too. I saw how he looked at you, and I was jealous." Jade's chest tightened as grief and anger warred inside her. She sat on the bench, opposite her sister. "You betrayed me," she said softly. "You chose him over me." Luna lifted her head, wet strands of hair framing her face. "I know," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Jade closed her eyes. She breathed in the scent of grass and damp earth. "Why didn't you tell me when we talked on the phone?" she asked. Luna swallowed, blinking back tears. "I didn't know how. I thought I could protect you by staying silent." Jade's vision blurred. "Protect me? By letting you two lie together?" Luna shook her head. "I thought I was helping him heal. I never planned the proposal. He put the ring in my hand." Jade exhaled slowly. The park's stillness pressed around them. She studied Luna's face, the regret, the shame. She remembered the sister she'd once trusted above all. Despite the pain, her heart softened, but the wound was deep. "I need time," Jade said. "I can't just forgive and forget." Luna nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. She reached out, but Jade gently withdrew. I have my own healing to do. They sat in silence as a cool breeze rustled the leaves. The pigeons they once fed cooed nearby. Jade glanced at Luna, realizing this moment was a turning point. Their bond fractured, but perhaps salvageable. She stood, brushing off her dress. Take care, Luna. Luna rose too, voice breaking. I love you. Jade nodded once and walked away. Each step weighted with sorrow and resolve. Their childhood bench remained, a silent witness to love and betrayal. Back in her apartment, Jade found a new message from Marcus. Please, Jade. I never meant to hurt you. She stared at the words, heart pounding. She typed, give me proof you didn't plan this. Minutes later, her phone buzzed. Marcus sent a voice memo, his shaky apology, his insistence that Luna had comforted him, that the proposal was spontaneous. His voice cracked. Jade scrolled up, noticing an attachment, metadata files showing timestamps of photos and messages. But buried in them was a draft text Marcus had written to Luna. I can't believe how perfect my life will be with you. Dated June 10th. Her breath caught as she played and replayed those words. He had drafted that message before he'd proposed. The spontaneity was a lie. He'd fantasized about a life with Luna while still with Jade. She felt bile rise in her throat. She fired back. So much for never meant to. He texted, I'll explain. Jade didn't reply. Instead, she opened her laptop and logged into her blog, a place where she'd once chronicled personal reflections. She drafted a post titled, When Love Becomes a Lie, detailing her story in abstract terms, changed names to protect identities, but making the betrayal clear. She wrote of the silent texts, the secret coffees, the staged spontaneity. Each sentence carved her pain into the screen. As she wrote, tears fell onto her keyboard. She paused, stared at the draft. Her vulnerability flickered into strength. She hit publish. The post went live. She snapped a final screenshot, then blocked both Marcus and Luna on every platform. Within minutes, messages poured in. Supportive comments from old friends. Sympathy from strangers who'd experienced similar betrayals. Comments like, your story gave me courage to walk away. And, thank you for sharing your truth. She scrolled until exhaustion weighed her eyes. Late that night, her blog notifications quieted. Jade lay in bed, phone face down. She realized she'd reclaimed her voice, not for him, not for Luna, but for herself. The lie was exposed, laid bare for anyone to see. Morning light found Jade sipping tea on her balcony, watching the city wake. Her phone lay silent. The blog post had rippled through her circle, reaching her family before she had a chance to call. She opened her inbox. An email from her father, subject line, we need to talk. She drove to her parents' home with trepidation. Inside, her father paced the living room, shoulders hunched. Her mother sat on the sofa, hands folded in her lap, eyes red. Luna wasn't there. She'd texted she wasn't strong enough. Her father exhaled sharply when he saw her. Your post, it's all over social media. His voice trembled. I love you, Jade, but you've publicized family matters. Jade met his gaze. I needed to tell my truth. Her father ran a hand through his hair. Your sister is broken too. Her mother stirred. We never wanted this publicity. Jade's chest tightened. I tried private conversations, she said quietly. No one listened until I exposed the lies. Her father's face softened. We felt caught in the middle. He looked at his wife, then back at Jade. But what happened was wrong. Her mother blinked back tears. Our family can heal, but it must start with honesty. She turned to Luna's empty seat. Luna needs to face this. Jade nodded. And so do I. The tension crackled between them. Years of love and unspoken grievances boiled over in the silence. But Jade felt lighter. The fracture was evident. The healing could begin. That evening, Jade sat at her desk, a crisp sheet of stationery before her. She dipped a pen in ink and began to write. Dear Marcus, I'm writing to thank you for the love we once shared. You taught me how it feels to be cherished, seen, and valued. Those memories will always be mine. But you also taught me what it means to be betrayed, by someone you trust most. You taught me the pain of watching love shift to someone else's hands. I curse you for the sleepless nights, the doubts, the tears you inspired. I'm sending this letter into the void, not because I expect a response, but because I need to close that chapter of my life. I release you from my thoughts, my anger, and my heart. Goodbye, and may you find the integrity I once believed you had. Jade. She paused, pen hovering. The words felt both cathartic and cruel. She realized she didn't need him to read this. The act of writing was enough. With a steady hand, she folded the letter and placed it in an envelope, then set it aflame under her mug in a ceramic dish. The paper curled and blackened, smoke rising in thin spirals. As the flames died, Jade watched the ashes. She closed her eyes and inhaled deeply, smoke and freedom. She whispered to the empty room, I choose myself. She stood, grabbed her coat, and stepped out into the night. The letter was gone, but the closure remained. Jade walked away from the embers of her past, ready to embrace a future defined by her own truth. 2 weeks before the wedding, Luna woke to a storm of doubt. The ivory silk of her engagement dress felt too tight, constricting her as if it were woven from her own anxiety. She sat at her vanity, staring at the ring Marcus had slipped onto her finger, its diamonds glittering like stars that had suddenly lost their warmth. Every time she lifted her hand, the weight of the metal brought a fresh wave of guilt and fear crashing over her. She thought of her sister, Jade, and how she'd looked into Luna's eyes that afternoon at the park, her voice hollow with betrayal. Luna shivered. Had she made the world's biggest mistake? She spent the morning going through wedding plans with their mother, discussing flower colors and seating arrangements. But each syllable felt unnatural on her tongue. When her mother glanced at her with excited anticipation, Luna forced a smile and nodded, though her heart pounded like thunder in her chest. In the car, her mother chatted about how proud Jade would be to see the family together again. Luna's words lodged in her throat. Luna clenched the steering wheel and imagined Jade's absence like a physical ache that no amount of wedding cake could soothe. That afternoon, Luna found herself alone in an empty chapel. Sunlight spilled through stained glass, painting vibrant patterns on the pews. She ran a trembling hand over the altar rail. Its polished would smooth beneath her fingertips. The silence pressed in around her. She slid to her knees, head bowed, and whispered apologies to a ceiling that offered no answers. She asked herself, what am I doing? Each tear that fell onto the cold floor felt like a confession. Her phone buzzed with a final reminder. Fitting at 5 p.m. RSVP by 8 p.m. She stared at the bright screen and realized she couldn't go through with it. Not when memories of Jade's broken heart haunted every corner of her mind. Luna stood, gathering her silk skirt and wiping her tears. She stepped outside into the cool evening air, inhaled deeply, and dialed her mother's number. Her voice trembled when her mother answered. Mom, I need to call this off. Silence crackled over the line before her mother whispered, Are you sure? Luna closed her eyes. I'm sure. That night, as the world slept under a blanket of stars, Luna lay in bed, clutching the ring like a stone of regret. Marcus's soft breaths beside her hurt like echoes of a love that had shattered. She knew she had broken his heart too, but she could not betray herself, nor let a future built on deception stand. The next morning, Luna arrived at Marcus's apartment, her heart pounding so loudly she feared he would hear it through the door. She held the ring box in her trembling hand. Marcus answered before she could knock, surprise and hope lighting his features. Luna, he began, stepping aside to let her in. She closed the door softly and turned to face him. Marcus, she said, voice clear despite the quiver beneath. She placed the ring box on the coffee table and opened it to reveal the gleaming band inside. Marcus's eyes filled with hurt. I can't marry you, she continued, words steady but gentle. I can't accept this when I know it's built on lies. He swallowed. But Luna, she shook her head. I love you, Marcus, but not like I should. Not when Jade still lives in every corner of my mind. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. I thought I loved you, he admitted. I thought you were the one who stayed when she left. Luna stepped closer, offering him the ring. I was wrong. I stayed because you needed me, not because my heart chose you. She saw tears glisten in his eyes. I'm sorry for leading you on. Marcus closed the ring box with a soft click. Thank you for your honesty, he said, voice thick. It hurts, but it's what I needed. They sat on the couch, side by side but not touching. The apartment, once filled with tentative excitement, now held a hush of finality. Outside, traffic hummed through the late morning light. Inside, two hearts fractured and mending. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He typed a few words, then deleted them. Finally, he set the device aside. I suppose this is closure, he said quietly. Luna nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. Closure, she whispered. She stood, smoothing her dress. I hope you find someone whose love isn't built on broken promises. He watched her walk toward the door, each footstep echoing with the end of their engagement. When she opened the door, he called softly, Take care, Luna. She paused, hand on the knob. You too, Marcus. Then she stepped out, letting the door close behind her with a gentle click that sounded like the resolution of a painful chapter. Days later, Jade sat on a bench by the river, the water's gentle flow lulling her racing thoughts into an unexpected calm. She'd spent weeks in turmoil, betrayal, heartbreak, public revelations, but now, as autumn leaves drifted lazily onto the walkway, she realized peace could exist even in the wake of pain. She wore a cozy sweater Marcus had once loved on her, its soft fibers comforting against her skin. In her hand, she held her journal, its pages filled with raw confessions and elliptical reflections. Today, she intended to write not of sorrow, but of healing. As she opened to a fresh page, the cool breeze carried the sound of laughter, a young family strolling past, their toddler chasing pigeons. Jade smiled, watching the child's delight. It struck her how life persisted around her, each person carrying their own joys and struggles. She took a deep breath, inhaling the crisp air, and wrote, Today, I choose calm. Over the next hour, she continued writing. Gratitude for Tasha's unwavering support, relief at Luna's decision to break her own engagement, and pride in blocking out negativity. Each sentence wound a thread of strength into the tapestry of her renewed self. When her pen finally rested, Jade closed her journal and stood. She tucked it into her bag and stretched her arms skyward. The sun peeked through drifting clouds, warming her face. She felt grounded, connected to herself and the world around her. She walked along the riverbank, past joggers and cyclists, nodding a silent greeting. A sense of belonging bloomed in her chest. She realized healing wasn't a destination, but a continual process of small moments, this one included. By the time she returned home, Jade's steps were lighter. She brewed green tea in her kitchen, letting the steam rise in gentle spirals. She poured a cup and carried it to her living room, where she arranged fresh flowers on the coffee table. She sat, cradling the mug, savoring its warmth. Her phone buzzed. It was a news alert about a local charity event. Without hesitation, Jade tapped the link and signed up to volunteer, eager to invest her energy in something positive. She smiled at her reflection in the window, green tea steam curling around her face like a promise. Jade realized she no longer needed to define herself by past heartbreak. She was capable of joy, compassion, and growth. She raised her cup in a silent toast to resilience, then took a slow, deliberate sip. Months later, Jade's life had settled into a new rhythm of work, friendships, and self-care. One afternoon, her phone chimed with a message from an unknown number. It's Luna. Her heart skipped. She had chosen not to block this number. She tapped it open. Luna's words appeared in a single paragraph. Jade, I've thought about you every day. I haven't asked for forgiveness, because you have every right to hate me. I was jealous of the love you and Marcus shared. I just wanted to be chosen for once. I'm so sorry for the pain I caused. I understand if you never want to speak again. I hope one day you find it in your heart to heal. Jade stared at the screen, emotions swirling, compassion, sorrow, lingering hurt. She remembered the park bench, the confrontation, the cold clarity that followed. She drafted a reply but paused, thumb hovering. Instead, she typed, Thank you for your honesty. I forgive you. I wish you peace. She pressed send, then set the phone aside. Her breath eased as she realized forgiveness freed more than just the forgiven. It liberated the forgiver. Luna's message had reopened an old wound, but Jade closed it again with acceptance. That evening, Jade prepared a simple dinner: roasted vegetables, quinoa, and her favorite herb tea. She arranged the plate on a wooden tray and lit a candle, setting the mood for solitude rather than loneliness. She draped a cozy shawl over her shoulders and settled onto her balcony swing, watching the city lights flicker. She reflected on the whirlwind of the past months, the betrayal, the revelations, the unexpected turns. Yet here she was, unchained from the past, her heart intact. She realized she had learned lessons no fairy tale could teach: the strength in setting boundaries, the grace in forgiveness, and the power in loving oneself first. As dusk deepened, she opened her journal to a final entry. I choose myself. I choose honesty, empathy, and growth. No longer defined by others' actions, I embrace who I am, whole, resilient, and free. She closed the journal and gazed at the candle's flame, its steady glow a testament to her inner light. Just then, her phone buzzed with a new friend request on social media, from a colleague whose volunteer work she admired. Jade smiled and accepted. A message popped up. Saw you at the charity event. Loved your speech. She typed back enthusiastically, feeling a spark of excitement for connections built on mutual respect and shared purpose. She set the phone down and inhaled the night air, stars glinting overhead. Jade realized that choosing herself wasn't selfish. It was the bravest act of all. It meant trusting her worth, honoring her journey, and welcoming whatever came next with an open heart. She leaned back, closed her eyes, and let the gentle swing carry her into a deep, peaceful calm, ready to write the next chapter of her life on her own terms. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please like, comment, and share. Also turn on the bell to get more of our videos. See you in the next story.